I like the 5-minute rule.
Yeah,
Reach out, have it here by 5 minutes past, then just move on.
There you go.
I mean, it's not like you guys did any work on this, right? Like, it's just threw it all together last minute. All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order at 4:06. Recording secretary, can you call roll, please?
Yes, thank you. Councilmember Okrepke,
Here.
Councilmember Benuelos.
Here.
And Chair Fleming is absent.
Thank you very much. There's no remote participation. We have approval of minutes. That is, there's one set.
Just so you know.
Okay. So we have one set of minutes from June 4th. I was not there, but I did review the minutes. So do you have any changes?
I don't, they're fine.
Okay, so then we will show those minutes adopted as submitted. We'll go to public comments. This is for the public to comment on anything within the purview of the Climate Action Subcommittee that is not on the agenda. You'll have 3 minutes. Anybody want to say anything? Nobody's even moving, so we will close public comment. Department reports.
Yeah, I just have one announcement. Peter Martin, Deputy Director of Water Resources. To my left is Alicia Quilici. She was recently promoted. She's the Energy and Sustainability Coordinator in the Water Resources Division. Starting next year, she'll be the liaison to the subcommittee. I'll continue to support you, of course, from behind the scenes, but you have a new community or liaison for the subcommittee. So, and that concludes my report.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, we'll go to public comment on that item. Seeing none, we will come back to new business. Item 6.1, SCTCA, Bayren.
Alrighty, well, good afternoon. My name is Anna Oliva with the Sonoma County Transportation and Climate Authorities, or SCTCA. I'm a Bayren program specialist with the team and also serve as a local government liaison. So working with each of the local governments throughout Sonoma County and coordinating with the other counties that are involved in Bayren. And today I'll be providing you an overview of the programs and resources through our Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or Bayren. I'll just leave it at that. Program portfolio. But before I begin, a little background on what Bayren is. So it's a coalition of the 9 Bay Area counties and the Association of Bay Area Governments, or ABAG, that partner to promote regional scale energy efficiency programs, services, and resources for residents, businesses, and local governments. Through our 9 program portfolio, Bayren supports healthy, resilient, energy efficient buildings for residents and businesses, helps build capacity for local government staff through our public programs and partnering on outreach and education, as well as additional resources, and reduces greenhouse gas emissions by leveraging regional partnerships and resources. I do want to note that Bayren is administered by the California Public Utilities Commission, or CPUC, and is primarily funded by California ratepayers through a public goods charge, which really comes out to a very small charge on your PG&E bill. If you're looking to see what that actually looks like. Bayren staff consist of local government employees across the region. Each program is implemented with tailored approaches to the needs of each community, and local government staff, such as ourselves, understand the unique characteristics of Sonoma County residents and businesses, which allows us to be flexible and responsive in our outreach and implementation. So in Sonoma County, SCTCA serves as the county representative for Bayren, which means we oversee local program implementation, marketing and outreach, as well as bring feedback on our community needs to the larger Bayren group to ensure that our community's needs are being served best by the programs. Also important to note that we do contract with the County of Sonoma's Energy and Sustainability team to provide program implementation, support on marketing and outreach, and technical assistance for our programs. Just a quick look at our portfolio. As I mentioned, we serve the residential, commercial, and public sectors through rebates, funding, technical assistance, and many more things. And later in the presentation, I'll highlight some specific opportunities for City of Santa Rosa for our programs. And when you're dealing with one of the many energy efficiency programs and portfolios, you got to wonder, like, what does this actually look like in Sonoma County? And for us, it's a lot of outreach and education. We're very involved in the community through in-person workshops, community events such as our induction cooking expos, which have always had a great turnout for people, and in-person training such as our contractor forums. Our outreach and education is ongoing throughout the year. And this can include some county-led events such as webinar series for residential energy efficiency and electrification. We have that series rolling out in the next few weeks. That'll focus on topics such as funding your improvements and creating a project plan for your home. We also leverage our partnerships such as co-hosted workshops, presentation, tabling at community events, and really value our partnerships with local governments and community organizations to do so. And finally, offering additional supportive services to the Bay Run programs, including some of the very unique characteristics that we have for Sonoma County, being our better buildings consultations, solar and storage consultations that help complement some of our offerings. Another common question that I get from local government staff is, how does Bay Run specifically support equity goals in the community? Bay Run's programs are specifically designed to fill gaps in the energy efficiency portfolio. And this can include offering multifamily engagement and building upgrades, outreach to hard to serve businesses, and targeted community education for underserved or hard to reach communities such as seniors, low-income households, and we also offer in-language support. Bay Run also works to strengthen local government capacity, as you'll continue to hear throughout this presentation. And this includes aligning our programs and some of the offerings with key planning documents. And for City of Santa Rosa, that could be the community-wide greenhouse gas reduction strategy, for example. Identifying some opportunities for partnerships and expanding city outreach. We can also provide jurisdiction-specific program data, which I'll show just a quick look in a second. And this includes program metrics and community engagement impact. And finally, we do really hope to support municipal decarbonization through our public programs resources and our codes and standards program as well. So just a quick snapshot at some of the City of Santa Rosa Bay Run data to date. You'll see that we have data for our single family Home Plus program, which did sunset in fall of last year. It's hard to believe that it's actually been a year since then. And we'll have some additional data available for our newer programs soon, but always happy to provide a detailed breakdown of data for all of our programs upon staff request. Next, I'd like to highlight some specific opportunities for Santa Rosa. The first being our single family program, Ease Home, which launched in July of this year, late July, and focuses on weatherization, energy efficiency, and offering health and safety improvements for moderate income single family homes. And the program offerings include a free energy assessment where a program energy advisor creates a personalized project plan with the homeowner. It's an opportunity for them to ask questions and really understand the impact of some of these energy efficiency upgrades. Bay Run will also cover 80% of the project costs, up to $8,000, and homeowners or renters are expected only to pay 20% of the project cost, which is capped at $1,000. And a key benefit of this program that we heard during the program's design phase was people were really interested in having hands-on and comprehensive support throughout the entire project process. Our previous single family program offered rebates and incentives and contractors, but this new program does offer the full project planning support, as well as Barron staff managing the permit process, applying for rebate applications, and still having program contractors. Eligibility for this program includes single-family households that were built before 2010, being a PG&E or Sonoma Clean Power customer. And again, aiming at the moderate income household. So that's 120% or less of the area median income. The core measures for the program are focused around weatherization. So that's insulation, ductwork, and air sealing. Also has energy efficiency measures such as smart thermostats and weather stripping. In some cases does offer health and safety upgrades such as minor pest and mold remediation as well, if that's required for the project to move forward. Important to note that this program is really focused on energy efficiency and weatherization. We don't offer any financial incentives for electrification right now through the program. But if requested by the homeowner, we can work to identify additional financing opportunities and build it into the project scope. And a quick look at Santa Rosa's participation to date, which has been really wonderful, as we can expect for Santa Rosa's population in the county. We've had 77 site visits that have been scheduled. 58 of those have been completed so far. 48 of those projects are moving forward to sign the participation agreements, meaning that they've created their project plan with our program team and are moving forward to be assigned a contractor. 29 installations are in progress, and as of mid-October, 8 projects were completed, which has been really exciting. And we've had really wonderful feedback so far. We've been incorporating some education materials as well, because you have all of these new appliances in your home, and behavior is a huge impact. We do get these upgrades. A quick note, we are hoping to serve about 100 homes throughout the county in our first program year. Santa Rosa is on track with really strong participation. We are having our next large push for outreach starting late November. And it'd be great to be able to partner with the city to continue to promote the program through communication channels and other city means. Next, I'll just quickly touch on our multifamily program, the Bay Area Multifamily Building Enhancement Program, or BAMB, as we call it, which offers no-cost technical assistance and rebates for multifamily properties, has a contractor referral process, and it can identify additional incentives and programs to buy down project cost. The program does require that properties install at least 2 energy upgrades, which are, there's a wide range of options that are out there. The only requirement is that the upgrades reduce energy use by 10% or more in order to qualify. And to date, 14 properties in Santa Rosa have participated in the program. 883 units have been upgraded, and we do have 4 new properties that are currently receiving technical assistance, so project planning. But due to high project volume this past year, we have currently met our incentive cap, and so the program is paused, but we'll be reopening in early 2026 with some refreshed incentives. In the meantime, a really exciting opportunity that we have is to expand tenant education through workshops. We're hoping to partner with partners like PEP Housing, Burbank, who's been a really great partner for this program, and hoping to connect with housing authorities as well to identify specific multifamily properties. They don't have to have already participated in the program, but just to share some information with tenants and property owners on energy efficiency and electrification upgrades, tips, some DIY opportunities that you have, and connect to any of the incentives that are available. And again, really emphasizing the importance of behavior when it comes to upgrading a building and how that can drive energy savings and reducing your bills overall. Just to wrap up some of our residential resources, quickly want to highlight our Climate Careers Program, which is offered in partnership with Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. Through this program, we're able to support renters and homeowners through our free energy efficiency kits and virtual greenhouse calls. And starting in 2026, we'll actually have an in-person satellite office, meaning that we will have some climate career fellows that will likely be placed in Santa Rosa, doing these in-person house calls, interfacing with homeowners and renters, and also having some other general career development opportunities there. And lastly, for our workforce sector, exciting to share that we will have a series of contractor education opportunities that will be kicking off in January 2026 and continuing throughout the year. So looking forward to that as well. Next, for our commercial programs, Barron program serves small and medium businesses. Our two programs are the Barron Business Program, which is a pay for performance program, and our Barron Refrigerant Replacement Program, or BRR. We love our acronyms. And that offers refrigerant replacement for small food and floral businesses, as well as some education for ongoing maintenance of the equipment. Some of the opportunities specific to City of Santa Rosa include partnering with economic development. We did meet with your team a few months back to provide an overview of the Barron programs, as well as some of the complementary programs available in the county. So looking forward to partnering through tabling. We can do co-branded outreach. We often do on-the-ground canvassing for businesses as well, and are open for presentations, workshops, and connecting to the consultation services that are free and available through the County of Sonoma's Energy and Sustainability team. All right, and wrapping up with our programs that support local government staff directly, we have our Codes and Standards program, which provides assistance in adopting energy policies, building codes, and offers no-cost technical assistance for municipal building staff. It also offers trainings and resources for codes, and a newer resource that's available is our existing building study, which provides an inventory of energy use, building type data, and emissions data specific to your jurisdiction. So that's available for Santa Rosa. Another exciting educational resource from our codes team is the quarterly regional forums that they put on. Our next one will be November 19th, and this will be highlighting California's always evolving energy policy landscape. And so it'll be going through some case studies of how local governments are taking on the challenge. Some are pursuing REACH codes, and exciting for our next presentation that we have as well. And finally, just to wrap up, we have our public sector programs, which really launched early 2025 this year. The first is our Integrated Energy Services Program, which complements the existing services that are available through the PG&E Local Government Partnership, or LGP, which is managed by the County of Sonoma Energy and Sustainability team. And so some of the resources that are available through those programs include an energy concierge service, which really serves as a single point of contact for staff, directing them to resources for technical and financial assistance, an energy road mapping service, which offers technical and engineering support to develop an energy efficiency, electrification, and resilience plans, as well as integrating energy benchmarking into those plans. And finally, we have the Targeted Decarbonization Services Program, or TDS, because Targeted Decarbonization Services is a mouthful to say. And that program offers training opportunities for local government staff, really broken into two pieces. The first is training for facilities and operations staff. That could include operation and maintenance for heat pump water heaters and HVAC, which, especially because you guys have had such great participation in the GK through 12 program, it seems like a great opportunity there. And a new offering that we have through the program is training for finance staff. And we will be having our first of this educational series launching on November 12th. And this will be a series focused on public sector energy financing. And so this will include the fundamentals of energy efficiency project planning and financing, identifying some opportunities and kind of going through what the differences are there, some common barriers and strategies when it comes to financing, and walking through some case studies of other local governments and the strategies that they've taken. And the last big piece of the TDS program is the Decarbonization Showcase, which is in its second round of funding right now and allows local governments to implement building decarb improvements for select buildings and serve as a regional case study series. And so some of the benefits of participating in the program include free engineering and technical support from Bay Run staff, providing tailored recommendations for energy savings and emissions reductions for the building, also providing up to $100,000 in gap funding for the project, as well as tracking long-term operational savings. And of course, being highlighted across the entire Bay Area as a spotlight project. So as I mentioned, the second round of applications is about to open at the end of the year. And applications will be closing mid-March 2026. An ideal candidate for this showcase would be a shovel-ready project. So really a lot of the primary planning work has already been completed. Most of the funding for the project's been identified and can leverage Bay Run's gap funding to cover those remaining costs. A building that's owned by a local government or a special district, and really looking for a project that has staff that can take on part of the project planning process and really be involved with our Bay Run implementation team over the 1 to 2 year period. Yeah, and again, this project does require complete electrification of a building. So we're happy to work with staff to go through the application process, answer any questions. The program will be leading an informational webinar to walk through the program itself, and also has a series of office hours for staff to go to and answer questions. But again, we're more than happy to support staff, even talk through some of the options that are there for them. And that wraps up my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. And again, always happy to work directly with staff if there is an area of interest or an opportunity to partner. So thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Any questions?
Just a really quick one. Thank you for the presentation. It was really very informative. I was really curious about the availability for tenants and the fact that you talked about, I can't remember in which part where you talked about working with Burbank and those organizations. I was wondering, by any chance, does that include any of the corporate landlords or small landlords, other tenant situations?
Yeah, our primary audience for the program, which is going to be a little more refined going into 2026, just because in the past it really was open to anyone. We're hoping to serve some of the smaller buildings, more of the mom and pop owned ones. So ideally less than 50 units would be our primary audience, but previously the program was open to any multifamily building.
Right. Okay. No, I think that's a great, because I love to see that as well as the homeowner. So, so I think that's a great part of this. So thank you. I think that's
My only question is on the contractor forum trainings. Do you partner with any organizations to recruit contractors to come in?
Yeah, we actually just had a meeting about that today on coordination. So we do leverage some of our partnerships throughout the Bay Area. We're hoping to partner with the Bay Area Air District as well and some of the education opportunities that they already have there. A lot of the counties do partner with their CCA. So in our case, that'd be Sonoma Clean Power. And for us, we do typically partner with the other North Bay counties. So we'll be working with Marin and Napa. But hoping to tap into some of the other existing groups that are out there.
Okay, so do you reach out to like the North Coast Builders Exchange or
Yeah.
Redwood Empire remodelers or, okay,
Yeah, we have regular attendance at those meetings as well.
fantastic. We will go to public comment on this. Is there anybody that would like to comment on this item? Again, no one moves, so we will close public comment. Oh.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I had a question. I really applaud, thanks for your presentation. I applaud any way we can support and mitigate climate change. And when you do in-house residential visits and assess, do you incorporate any testing for indoor air quality? I'm a retired physician, and if people are cooking with gas stoves, there's a lot of off-gassing of methane. And it's particularly damaging for young children who have really vulnerable lung tissue, and also for particulate matter. When you close everything in, you concentrate. So particulate matter below 2.5 micrograms, picograms is really problematic for asthmatic children in particular. So I just wondered if that's some of your discussion or could be to educate people and give them an opportunity to know what their indoor air quality is like.
Yeah.
Can't get into a back and forth during public comment. So is that, you're good?
I'm good.
All right. Anybody else? We will close public comment. I can ask, do you have any response to the speaker's questions?
I do have a response and to that excellent question that was asked. That is going to be something that we're going to be exploring in our next business plan. Barron's going to be focusing more on health and resilience as we enter into that new cycle. So perfect example of homeowner education, especially when it comes to natural gas appliances in the home, especially stoves. Right now, during our in-person site visits, we do offer some pretty high-level education around health impacts for that, but we're hoping to expand that in the future and possibly have some other pilots in the residential sector focused around health and resilience. So,
Thank you very much. Any final comments or questions?
Just one other question. So you're going to open it up again in next year, right? How does someone apply? Or I know you do a lot of outreach, but is there a website or what's the process?
yeah, all of our programs do have a website. There's an application and interest form for every program. Specifically in Sonoma County, we do have additional services available for smaller multifamily properties, if that's what your question is for. To really walk them through the application process, talk them through the program offerings, and help hand them off there. But yes, there is an interest form online. And while we're in this program pause, we do have an interest form that we as a county are maintaining to reach back out to once the program does reopen.
Okay, right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much on this presentation. My only question on this is, how do we get this out to everybody else? Because there's just the two of us here right now, and I'm sure there's 5 others that would be very interested in getting this out to their communities they represent.
Yeah, I can answer that question. I think, we are in contact a lot with Anna's particularly, and I think there's some opportunities coming up with city newsletters, different things like that. But I think as well as some of our, maybe we do have a public facing web page for climate action. That might be an opportunity too as well to provide. These are just things coming off the top of my head.
Right.
But I definitely think after this, we'll follow up with staff and try to come up with a way that we can promote things here in Santa Rosa too as well.
That'd be great. I was thinking, go the gamut from newsletter to report item, anything in between. So I think it'd be I know at SCTCA, we talk about these items fairly frequently, but not all of our council members are as attuned to that. To that board, and also to what you're doing on a regular basis. So I think this is something that could, we talk about the tenets, the efforts for education and equity in families. I think that's stuff that we need to really get out to everybody so that they can communicate that. So
I guess, are you suggesting maybe a council briefing at some point then maybe too?
I would be okay with it if you
Yeah.
think,
We can bring that to the city manager.
as the work plan provides.
Okay.
I'll put that caveat in.
That's a good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And we will move on to 6.2. You want to introduce it, Peter? You want me to?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right, cool.
Sure. So item 6.2 is greenhouse gas reduction in the built environment. Presenting today is Jimmy Bliss, Chief Building Official, Planning and Economic Development, and Dean Osborne, Director, Planning and Economic Development.
Okay, I'll go ahead and kick it off. Good afternoon, Councilmember Banuelos and Councilmember Okrepke. The topic for today's agenda item is going to focus on a bit of an overview of our greenhouse gas reduction strategies, but a very specific element of our greenhouse gas reduction strategies, which is referred to as a REACH code. So basically what a REACH code is anytime the state sets a code that local jurisdictions adopt and the local jurisdiction attempts to go more stringent than that or above that, it becomes a REACH code. And that's very common on the energy side. What the Climate Action Subcommittee did many years ago is develop a REACH code for all electric in low-rise buildings. So that's 3 stories or less, which actually reduced the fossil fuel burning because it took gas out of the building. That universe has changed quite a bit over the years. A lot of jurisdictions did the same thing, some more aggressive and applied it to more development types. The challenge that was created was pretty much in 2024, there was a court case between the California Restaurant Association and the city of Berkeley. The reduction of gas in a building affects the use of gas appliances, which was actually preempted. We'll move forward in a few of these. Sorry, I'm going a little overview here and then Jimmy will dive into it. So it was preempted by federal law. So what we have been doing and what most jurisdictions did is we suspended the code and we have worked on how we could potentially fix that consistent with that court case. And our greenhouse gas reduction strategies were adopted earlier in 2025 as part of the general plan adoption. And right now the team is working on incorporating that into our triannual building code update. So we normally update all changes at the state level from a building code standpoint. We're looking at adding this on as a REACH code. So Mr. Bliss will go through the presentation. Right now, we're really looking for an overview. We'll bring this to the council in December, but happy to incorporate any feedback or answer any questions you might have as part of that process. So Jimmy Bliss, Chief Building Official, Amy Nicholson, Supervising Planner, will help us on the overview of the GHG. But at this point, I'll hand it over to Mr. Bliss, and I apologize, some of it will be duplicative in what I just said, but Jimmy will go through that.
Try to skirt through those ones. So as Gabe said, we are working forward because of the judicial ruling. We kind of had to rework everything that we're doing with the all-electric REACH code. There is a requirement from the state to have a minimum energy reduction for the greenhouse gas that we're shooting for as a whole. And a large part of that is the reduction in the built environment. So in buildings, we want to make it as efficient as possible so that we're not producing these greenhouse gases. Hold please, technically. There we go. So we previously adopted the all-electric code in 2019. That was preempted. We were instructed to cease enforcement on that. And since then, we've been kind of going through and trying to reinvent the wheel, if you will. We have come up with a few options, but the most effective option that we could find was to utilize the energy code in order to ensure that we build things that do have gas options in them that are built to a little bit higher standard than the state requires. So that makes it so that they have to go a little bit step farther, and then we would exempt the all-electric because they're already meeting our greenhouse gas reduction goals without doing that extra little bit. The base code that we typically compare it to, so the state has a bunch of different models for each type of building, and they say you have to meet at least this much, and we're taking those and doing a little bit better. The little bit better, the catch for the state requirements is we have to show that that's cost effective. So anything that we do beyond the minimum code for energy code requirements, we have to show somehow that it's cost effective. Luckily, we had some reports from the 2022 codes that made it so they did a report and went through all sorts of PG&E records, all sorts of billings, and came up with a report for different types. So we're able to see in our specific area that these are cost effective. So we went through those and we have a bunch of different, a little bit better for those gas options, those mixed fuel options. Talk about that, going through, I'm just zipping through these things. We also wanted to utilize the energy code because there's already a framework there so that people can, when they're designing the building, they can trade off different features. So they can have a little bit better insulation here, or they can have a better HVAC equipment. And they can do things and still have their gas stove or whoever they want. But if they make it more efficient somewhere else, then they can still get away with what they want to. And with these increases, we can slowly push them towards the all-electric goal and the greenhouse gas goal. So we're doing as much as we can while keeping it cost-effective and legal. So historically, each code cycle, the state gets more stringent anyways. So we will have to reevaluate this every 3 years, which is the typical code cycle. So so happens 2025 is a code cycle year. So we're looking at that right now. We don't have availability for those code cycles for a cost effectiveness study. They're working on the updates still. So we'll be going forward with that, but still comparing those a little bit better to the 2022 codes. So basically they'll have to run two analysis when they're doing the greenhouse gas reductions. Except if they're all electric, and then they get away with it, right? Because that's what we're going for. We're trying to make it more greenhouse gas friendly. So from our projections, this will attain about 95% of what we previously had with the all electric, even with providing that legal obligation to have mixed fuel option. So we're pretty excited that we're able to accomplish most of what we were trying to accomplish, and we will continue to reevaluate as we have more information from it. We are targeting new construction. As Gabe talked about, we started with new construction low rise because that was what was available then. This new one covers a wider range. So we will have some for commercial, some for high rise, and the amount that they have to be better than the state code is based on what is cost effective for each type. Again, we talked about trade-offs, so you can have a lot of these solutions require solar or battery for them to meet those requirements. And so it has generation on site so that it makes it even more efficient and we don't have to worry as much about the greenhouse gas. There were only a couple things that made sense really and were cost effective for existing construction. And so we pulled the low hanging fruit there. And if you have a house that doesn't have any insulation and you do some work that opens up the wall or the ceiling in that area, we're just going to have them put in R48 insulation or R13 and have a little bit of insulation to make it a little bit better as they go. So those were the low hanging fruit for existing. We will need to do that later on. We're shooting for goals of zero net energy in 2045. It's a long-term goal. We're just moving our way as fast as we can, but still making it viable for the community. And with that, I'd like to take any questions.
I don't have any yet.
Okay. Sorry, I was typing my note to ask questions, so caught me at a bad time. Let's see here. So with the intent of being as energy efficient as possible and as while not causing increased costs, you said there was, in your presentation, you said they found that. Who is the they?
Yeah, so it was a coalition, so the county and PG&E, some other utility companies, because it was over the state in general, they collaborated and produced those cost-effective analyses. They had a couple of different ones. There were like 1,200 pages of cost-effectiveness stuff that I got to come through. But in general, it was a coalition of multiple jurisdictions that worked.
Okay. I'm sure you could probably guess my next question is the people that are going to encumber this cost are going to be the builders. And so was the building community consulted at all? Whether valid or not, their arguments, have they been consulted on this at all?
They were consulted with the original 2019 code. We haven't had the opportunity to open it up as much for this update. No.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can add to that. So in this particular case, there's really two challenges. What the building community will have is an opportunity for mixed fuels. We have to allow that. Really what we're seeing is that there is a desire for still gas burning stoves. When we actually stepped back and suspended our code, we saw mixed fuels come back into the mix. So the reality is, from a mixed fuel standpoint, if one wants to do it, just to give a simplified example, they have to increase their energy consumption to offset the burning of those fossil fuels. So solar, in most situations, based on minimum code requirements, does not cover the full electrification or use of the structure. As you bring in battery backup, as you increase solar, then it can account for that and essentially, for lack of a better term, put that unit off the grid. So where it becomes a little challenging is that there are requirements under the state to meet the 2045. So from a minimum code standpoint, builders will have a few different options to go through. But if they elect to use the fossil fuels, then likely that will mean more on the solar side, which can increase that cost. But it's an elective. So they can go back to basically the all electric, which was the code that we had before. So really what happens in that particular case, we create an option where it's still as cost effective as it was before. It doesn't increase the cost of construction. But what a lot of jurisdictions are moving towards is more of an incentive program. And it can be funded through other means, but in most situations when it's a REACH code, it puts the requirement on. So I think it's important to note there still is the same strategy that maintains the cost of construction without fossil fuels. When they bring that in, that's an elective, and likely they have to offset that by increasing the solar production.
Okay.
But I think to your point, council member, as we go through this process, we will be discussing this with the North Coast Builders Exchange, with the local community about how it's going to affect them. This is really the only change outside of really the 2025 code adoptions. You saw the fire department move forward their code adoptions for 2025. So those are just really standard codes that we're moving forward. Everyone knows about those. So this is a very particular conversation we will have with the film.
That's good to hear, because I do remember the spirited conversations over the all electric REACH code, even though I wasn't on council at the time. And, you know, the arguments of, I can't do all electric because the demand for it as a property owner is not as high, and it'll ruin the value of the home, those kinds of things. So I think, yeah, going down the route, because this is due to come to council in December, you said?
To the 18th, yes.
18th, okay. If you could be a little urgent in having those conversations, I think that would be great. The other question I had was, on the recommendations, encourage solar battery installation. Is that encourage both, one or the other? What? Because as an example, I'm on a grid next to a hospital. So if I'm in the need of a battery, there's much larger fish to fry than me not being able to turn on my lights, right? So how does that play out?
Yeah, so in order to use mixed fuels, most of the cost-effective options require it to have both battery and solar. So they would have that on-site generation, and it would counteract the energy losses due to gas appliances in general. So anything where this would actually apply would need to probably have both.
Okay. On the residential alterations, I'm fine with it, with what's recommended. Has there been any conversations with, going back to our previous presentation, about sealant of any sealing, not sealing, but like sealing off, weather stripping, those kinds of things as well, double pane windows, anything like that?
Yeah, so they're, as part of some of the energy code, they have extra points, if you will, for doing things like that, for quality insulation control, making sure that the insulation isn't jaggedly cut. And they have a specific person that comes in and evaluates all that kind of stuff. So a lot of it is taken into account already in that program. So that is available and addressed as part of this ordinance.
And I think it's important to note that the challenge with the existing housing stock, when building permits are pulled, the scope of code compliance is to what they're proposing to do. So it becomes a little difficult to require full energy efficiency compliance when one is working on an interior wall to require improvements to the windows. Typically, there isn't the legal authority to do that. I think as part of this, it becomes education on incentive programs that exist for people to do that because there is an economy of scale. If you're doing work on your home, how do you add these other pieces on? So part of what the department does is try to encourage people on what their options are for making modifications to the homes. From a greenhouse gas reduction strategy, the energy compliance in buildings is a really important thing. That's where a lot of the fossil fuel burning occurs. So by increasing the efficiency of the building, you reduce the fossil fuel burning even when you have that, because there's a lot of homes that still have gas heaters. That's fairly common. So really that's an area where the balance is what we can require from a code standpoint and what we can incentivize through other means. So this is really covering what baseline codes need to be covered to meet our greenhouse gas reduction strategies. But as we look at these other items, that it really just makes sense for the person to do it when they're doing this, then it's connecting them to the other resources so they understand what sort of incentive programs are out there to support that.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. I've said this at other bodies before, but one of my biggest concerns is that I don't think new construction is the largest issue. Is the fact that a majority of the housing in the city was built before 1980 when there were no energy efficient requirements of any kind. So if we can incentivize those homes in any way, I mean, those are the ones without insulation or proper insulation, single pane windows, bad weather shipping, those kinds of things. I think that should be a focus as well if possible. But my last question, sorry, I'm belaboring all of this, but with a 2030, 2045, and this is a larger discussion that we don't need to get into, but just since stuff rolls downhill, and the federal government taking away incentives, taking away tax breaks and all those things, I understand we're trying to meet our own goals of 2030 and the state's goals of 2045. Do we foresee that being as easy as just doing this, or is that going to be far more complicated with everything that's moving?
I think that it makes it far more complicated when you reduce some of the financial incentives that go into making this happen. And I think to council member, to your point, building efficiency, one of the biggest things that we've seen is as the money flows into retrofitting existing buildings, you're addressing a bigger stock of your housing supply. Because then the amount of new built environment from now to 2045 is going to be limited by a variety of different things. Interest rates can affect that. But overall, your usage year to year to year is staying the same, and you have to figure out a way to reduce that. So from a code standpoint, it was identified in the GHG reduction strategies that REACH codes, especially to reduce the fossil fuel use, are incredibly critical to that. And that's mainly because that REACH code is in a narrow band of just addressing new units. But the greenhouse gas reduction strategies lay out a number of other solutions. Reducing vehicles miles traveled is a big piece to that. So I can hand it over to Amy and she can discuss a few of those pieces and how it really intersects with incentives and how money is potentially either drying up at the federal level or how solar rebates go away. That actually has a pretty significant effect.
Sure, well, I can just add a little bit. So our in 2019, that was the last time we had a greenhouse gas inventory done for the city. Transportation is definitely the #1 contributor to our greenhouse gas emissions. It's almost 60%. Residential and non-residential energy together are just about 27, 28%. So it's the second highest. One of the things that we talked about with our consultant going through this process is the need to monitor and then adjust just as time goes by. So there are regular citywide inventories done so we can see how effective we are in achieving those reductions and then potentially focusing on other areas as needed depending on changes in funding and laws.
Thank you. That's all my questions for now. So we'll go to public comment on this item. Does anybody have public comment on this item? Once, twice, closed. All right, we will close public comment, come back for final comments or any direction.
I just have one question. Given that I really, #1, thank you for the presentation, and I really appreciate the fact that, given all these requirements now, that, you know, that staff is looking at other options, and you've described them, the two, you know, the incentives or, I'm just wondering, looking at whatever our, current goal is for, greenhouse gas reductions, is it realistic at this point? Or do we leave it where it is, given all these requirements that you have, that you are dealing with now?
It is, so we have different milestones in the greenhouse gas reduction strategy. So there's the 2030 and then 2045 and 2050. It's feasible, it's doable, but again, it's that regular evaluation that we're gonna need to see what kind of progress we've made. We have made really good progress if you look back to the levels back in 2007. So, you know, as you know, energy usage gets a lot more efficient as more people transition to electric vehicles, we are seeing some really meaningful reductions, but they are very large. You know, our targets are ambitious and they are based in state law as well. So
Right.
we're doing our best, but yes, we'll have to continue to monitor our progress to see, and certainly implement the various different strategies within the reduction strategy outside of what we're presenting today, so.
Okay, thank you. I think that's really important. So, yeah, I really appreciate that.
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, just dovetailing off of that, do we have the flexibility to change ours based on what's going on at the state level? So if the state all of a sudden shifts to 2050, 2055, do we have are we nimble enough to alter ours as well, or is it something that's gonna be much more complicated to undertake?
I'll let Amy dive into this after initial answer. So the important piece is meeting the minimum state requirements for 2045. So we have to produce a document that shows a reasonable task to do that from a CEQA standpoint, from an environmental standpoint. That's an important piece. Now, the reality of how that document plays out over that period of time can change. So how we change that document, if the state moves the finish line, then obviously it can be reevaluated as part of that. I think an important piece, and I'll let Amy dive into this, if we see that we're just not achieving our goals in some of those really critical areas. As she mentioned, 60% is the fact that we're still moving gas-powered vehicles around significant distances. So how do we reduce that and chip into that 60%? But Amy, do you want to talk a little bit about how we would amend the GHG reduction strategies?
Sure, so we do have the ability to amend it as we need to through a general plan amendment. And so that's an item we can bring forward to the council throughout the year. We can amend it 3 times a year. And so we certainly have that ability to adjust as needed.
Great. And then my one last question is, since this is already coming in December, I'm assuming, you know, one of the things that we've been, as a council, been concerned about is adding extra work with limited bandwidth of staff. So that is, I'm assuming this is not going to be something that increases workload or limits bandwidth since it's already in process, or is this something that could increase that?
So this has actually been factored in since the Berkeley case. So we knew we would have to amend this. Really why it's taken so long is we had to adopt the GHG reduction strategies, understand the universe of what was happening with the 2025 code adoption. So the triennial code adoption is something that we have to do and then we bake into our process. And so I think a point you made earlier, Councilmember Okrepke, and just want to give some clarity on this, is ever since 2024, when we suspended, we've been communicating with the development community about what likely options are here. So this shouldn't be broadsiding. I think that we'll get into the details about some of the changes, but we've been communicating to let them know likely this is how we're going to change. Ever since we suspended the code requirement, then we were fielding inquiries from the community about how we would potentially change. So to answer your specific question, it is in the work plan. And Jimmy right now is pushing through to get it to the finish line. There is some ability to really move it around. The 2025 codes come into effect whether we adopt them or not. By doing it prior to that change, which is January 1, it just creates clarity in our code. So it makes it easier to navigate. But if we need a little more time, we can move it out. But at this point, Mr. Bliss has put a lot of work into that. We've worked with other jurisdictions to figure out what they're doing. Some are really trying to just incentivize more solar, but how do you handle it from a code standpoint where you have to provide an option of mixed fuels without really sort of overly burdening development with that, giving them the option, but then also offsetting this concept of a reach code where you're actually increasing production through solar to offset your carbon emissions, basically.
All right. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it. If there's nothing else, we can close this item out. Thank you all. Really appreciate it. All right, 6.3.
So 6.3 is the upcoming year 2026 Climate Action Subcommittee meeting schedule. Michelle has kindly posted that up for you to see. At your April meeting of this year, direction was given to staff to move to a quarterly schedule going forward for the Climate Action Subcommittee. We have pulled together a proposed schedule, which you have seen and is attached to the agenda. Happy to take any feedback on that or move it forward as planned into next year.
Oh, I mean, I haven't looked at my 2026 schedule yet, but I think it looks good. And meeting quarterly, I think it will be really, I mean, I can't speak for Chair Fleming, but I think if something else, timely comes up, maybe we can adjust it, but it looks good for now to me.
The only problem I see is May 6th is scheduled to be the second day of our budget study session.
That's right.
Good-
Forgot
good
about
catch.
that.
I'm glad we had this on this.
So
Thank you.
Okay.
after a day and a half of budget, I would, as much as I would appreciate being here with you all, I
No,
would rather go
Yeah.
home.
yeah, that's probably not a good day. Yeah.
So we may look to,
You'll get us on our last nerve and
Yeah.
And it
very
will be
thin
good.
attention spans.
Okay, yeah, we'll look to, thank you for catching that. We'll look to shift this then and but definitely we'll continue with the February meeting scheduled and then come up with a revised.
Yeah, I would work with Lindsay in that office because I know the first day is also supposed to be Cinco de Mayo. So I know they were concerned about the timing of that. So this may be okay and they may shift the other one, but be in contact with Lindsay, I would say it'd be the best part.
Thank you.
No problem. Any comments? Public comment? What?
Schedule?
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead.
Awesome. We'll close public comment and any final comments on this item?
No, I'm glad you caught May 6th. I don't even know how I missed that. No, thank you.
Yeah, for me, the only reason why I caught it is because I saw what the day before was and.
Yeah, which I'm always away on May 5th. So yes.
As is Councilmember Alvarez, and so
Yeah.
that's the only reason why I caught mine is I brought it to the attention, and so I was like, oh, we might have to revisit that
Yeah.
date. So,
Yeah.
with that, we can close out that item 6.3, which brings us to 7 future agenda items.
So yeah, we did not include an attachment. We were not able to obtain any firm presentations for next year, but I did just want to give you a verbal update. We do plan likely in February to have PED bring the transit-oriented communities parking work they're doing with the
That sounds good.
MTC and ABAG. So they will be working on the scope. They're not here right now, but in the next few months and would likely bring that for some information and direction. And then in August, we're looking at the 1-year sort of, implementation update on the greenhouse gas reduction strategy that you adopted as part of the general plan. So that item will come to. So just verbally plan on those coming next year and we'll continue to seek out potential items from other staff and other departments in the meantime.
Okay. Any comments or any ideas for future agenda items?
This sounds good. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to the transit and more on greenhouse gases. Can't get enough of that. So.
I think we have gotten enough of greenhouse gases. That's the issue. And then, yeah, I agree. The transit oriented parking and all of that is great. So also playing to your audience of SETCA being here. But with that, oh yeah, we have to take public comment on this. Yep.
Yeah, is there, for agenda items, is there a possibility you could put on the agenda some green regenerative urban agriculture mitigation for greenhouse gases? And to be more specific, planting trees and encouraging green spaces. Because transportation and green spaces are two major items to reduce greenhouse gases. And we have a number of now volunteer groups that would be glad to present that are doing volunteer planting of street trees. But we'd like to coordinate with the city and see who could be of help in terms of volunteering to do that sort of work and to save them money and get our trees planted.
All right, thank you. Bring it back. I'm okay with that idea. Obviously, if it fits, talk to the team, circulate it internally, and then if it fits within the work plan, I mean, that's one of the biggest issues right now that we're facing with staff in general, just a lot of ideas and a lot of effort and only so much time in the day. So, yeah, if that's compatible, I'd be okay with that coming back.
I agree. Yeah.
All right. And with that, that brings us to item 8, adjournment. We'll adjourn at 5:06. Thank you.
Easy. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.